Hello everyone, this is John from Western Maine Defensive Tactics. I apologize for my absence in 2019, but in 2020 I'd like to do some videos on reloading. And I've been reloading a little over 20 years now, and I've talked to a lot of different people that would say, well, I'd like to reload, but I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the space. And those are some excuses people have, or reasons that they think they have, based on an impression that they need a large progressive press, they need a dedicated room, they need a large bench, they need a lot of space and a lot of time and a lot of money and effort spent towards this, and they don't really want to go that far in it. And I say this, right behind the camera is exactly one of those setups. I have a Dillon 550 with a bunch of tool heads with just about every caliber I load. But at the same time, I'm also cognizant of the fact that I may not be able to always get to that stuff, get to that press. My shop may burn down. I may lose my resources for whatever reason. So a few years ago, I decided that I would start looking into more portable ways of reloading and develop some kits. And I think those are very practical if you're just starting out reloading. The first thing I need to talk to you about, if you're going to start reloading or you're interested in it, is buy a manual and read it. Go get one like this. I have another old Lyman manual. I have a couple of old Lee manuals, an old Spear manual. It doesn't matter what you get for a manual. The Lyman's a great choice. This came out, last year? It's a great choice, but all the manuals from the common manufacturers are going to have the front section, and that's what you need to worry about. You need to have the basics of reloading section. It's going to show you about different aspects of powder and primers and cases and the basic aspects of reloading. And I've run into quite a few people over the years, usually at a gun show or two, that ask me about reloading because they're having a certain problem with brass or a certain load they're working on. And it's a pretty common problem that is in every manual I've ever read, but they don't seem to understand that. And I was like, so do you have a manual? Oh yeah, I have it. Did you read it? Well, I look at the data for 44 Magnum or 10 millimeter or whatever load we're talking about. I'm like, hey, did you read the basic chapter on primers? Did you read the basic the chapter on brass? Well, I skimmed it. You've got to read it. And I realize that in today's day and age, a lot of your younger people are a little averse to reading. But in order to be a good, safe, informed, and competent reloader, you've got to be able to read the written word and learn and follow instructions from it. That is the first step you need to have under your belt. If you can do that, start acquiring tools. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this. If you have a budget of $100 or maybe $125, you can get into reloading and have a pretty competent kit if you are a savvy shopper. It's going to take a little research on your part. I'm going to try to help you out with that now. One of the first tools that maybe is not the most inexpensive, the most cost-effective, you might find at a gun show that will help you reload is a 310 tool. These are made by Lyman. They originally bought the patent from the Ideal reloading tool company. Look into the history of it if you like firearms history, because it's really neat. These are what people call Nutcracker tools. You have 4 dies, and some sets have 5. That do all the basic processes of reloading, which are punching out the old primer and resizing the case, belling the case mouth to accept a bullet, repriming the case, and seating and crimping the case. And they do a really good job of that. This particular set's for 357 Magnum. I have all my load data right here on this card. I have a couple of spare depriming pins or decapping pins right here. I keep this card right in here so I know what Lee scoop from the Lee powder measure kit to use with this set. Basically, the Lee powder measure kit is a good solution. You have a little slide rule that shows what scoop to use with what powder to get a certain charge. You don't have to carry the whole set. You just need to write down what scoop you need and what charge it gives you and develop your technique. Many of the less sophisticated and more basic reloading techniques rely a lot on personal technique and your research. You can learn to do it. It's not hard. Generations of men reloaded just like this for many, many years. Downsides of the 310 tool, it neck resizes rifle cartridges. Don't let people tell you that you cannot reload like lever action or repeating or semi-automatic with a 310 tool because you can. Experiment with your own rifle. I kind of took the conventional wisdom with a grain of salt and reloaded a bunch of 308 and shot it through my FN. It worked just fine. I reloaded it 3 or 4 times. I've done a lot of 30-30 Winchester reloading too with these. Downside of these, sometimes with some cases, it's going to be a lot of work to close these. Close the pliers up. Not that big a deal. I've reloaded a lot of 357 with one of these, and it's actually kind of fun. These are really enjoyable tools to make, to use. What I like about these is you can have a really competent reloading setup and put it in a very small box. Put one of these and a pistol handle, a rifle handle, and enough powder and primers to reload quite a bit of ammunition for your rifle and your pistol in one box. If you see these handles, there's 2 types, small handles and large handles. The handles are pretty much the same size. What they're talking about, small and large, is the size of this threaded boss here that you thread the dies into. This is a longer one for rifle cartridges, shorter one for pistol cartridges. But let's move along a little bit. 310 tools are not currently manufactured from what I understand, and some people collect them. But you may find an inexpensive one. They wouldn't be my first choice if I was getting involved and I was going to buy everything new, because they would cost you quite a bit of money if you found new ones. You might be able to find some cheap though, so I wanted to mention it. So let's talk about, you have a little bit more money, a little bit more space. You want to get an actual press that you don't have to hold in your hands. You want one that you can actually mount to a piece of plywood and clamp to a table or something like that, but still make it pretty portable. You can get one of these Lee single stage presses. These will run you new in the realm of $40 or $50. I bought this one for $12. This is one of the old style where you just screw the dies in straight in there. The new ones in both the Lee hand press and this press have what they call the breech lock system, where it's an interrupted thread. You have a collar that has a die lock ring eliminator, well, the ones I use anyway. They have a system where you can adjust the die, lock it in place with an Allen wrench, and then just pop the whole die out, replace it with your next die, pop it right into the press. It's very slick. I thought it was a bit of a gimmick at first, but I got one a couple of years ago, started using it, and it's actually very slick. These you can full length resize your all but your really huge Magnum rifle cartridges with. I've done 30-06 and 45-70 and things in that neighborhood with no problem. You still get to lube your cases just like you would any other rifle cartridge, but it works great. And you're still pretty much in that 50 caliber ammo can too, depending on how you mount this and what you're mounting it to. But let's talk about this. This is a Lee hand press. If there was one thing or one tool I had to reload everything I shoot with, and I couldn't have a progressive press or anything else, this is what I would have. This is probably the most competent press you can get, because you can full-length resize on this, and it takes standard dies. Unlike the 310 tool, which needs specific dies exclusive to it, you can use any of your common reloading dies with this. So you can pull them off a press, you can find them used, whatever you need to do. Wherever you get your dies at, they're going to work with this. Again, you can full-length resize, which is a really good thing to be able to do with your semi-automatics. The breech lock feature, if you get a new one, it's great to have. Very competent. I've reloaded lots and lots of rounds with these, even though I still have a progressive press. Very handy. And you're still within that, say 50 caliber ammo can thing. You can put a couple of sets of dies for rifle and pistol, this press, powder, primers, and some bullets in a tall 50 caliber ammo can, and have a pretty competent kit right there. But let's say you don't even want to get that involved. Let's say you just want a minimal kit. Try to find one of the Lee loaders for the caliber you're using. This is a 44 Magnum, and you're going to use a mallet like this to punch out the primer, resize the case, bell the case, pour in the primer with your Lee scoop, and then seat the bullet. You're going to end up whacking the hammer and various tools here whacking the cartridge case and various tools with a live primer in it with this. Some people are a little discombobulated by that, but it's not that big a deal. There have been thousands and thousands of rounds, if not hundreds of thousands of rounds, loaded with these over the years. These are pretty competent tools. And they're very compact. You could put one of these in a little shoebox and hide it someplace. Your production isn't going to be great as far as how many rounds you're creating. But our point here is not to create 1,000 rounds or even 500 rounds. If you can create a box of shells, 50 rounds in the evening, hey, you're ahead of the game. If you have 100 rounds and 50 rounds of brass, you just created 50 more rounds. You'll have to add a source of bullets or a bullet mold and powder and primers to this little setup to get up and running. Now, as far as reloading components, casting bullets is a different aspect of it. You can learn to do that, or you can buy your bullets in advance and stash them. No problem. Buy primers, buy powder in bulk. Now, I use a lot of Unique, a lot of it. That's an 8-pound jug. Right now, an 8-pound jug will run you about $150, depending on where you buy it. I like to buy primers by usually the 5,000 round sleeve. You don't have to go quite that big. A couple of 1-pound cans of Unique or 2400, whatever you're using in your handgun, are going to last you quite a while. Do the math and figure out how many pounds of powder you're going to need to reload 2,000 rounds or whatever like that. You can buy primers pretty inexpensively. Keep it dry, put it in an ammo can, and you'll have it forever. If you want to get into saving money with reloading, you're going to have to buy in bulk, and that's what I recommend you do. But you don't have to start out that way. You buy 1,000 primers and a pound of powder, and you're in business. And there's also some value, I think, these days in not putting all your eggs in one basket. So, I hope this video helped you out if you're thinking about reloading. And I think that if you own firearms, excuse me, I think you should at least have the basics of reloading under your belt on a very basic level or elementary level. It doesn't cost much to get a Lee hand press and some dies. Resize your brass, punch the primers out, reprime it, pour powder charge, and seat and crimp a bullet. Well worth knowing how to do. Even if you don't get into it like I am, you don't have to be obsessive compulsive reloading type person to reload a couple of 100 rounds a year, 500 rounds a year. But what you will learn from that process is you'll learn much more about ammunition, you'll learn much more about your gun. You'll learn what makes ammunition work and what makes it not work, and you'll understand it much better. If you get familiar with the tools that are used in reloading, you'll be able to get used tools at gun shows very, very cheap, because a lot of people will buy a Lee hand press or a single stage press, and then they'll use this for years, upgrade to a progressive press, and then not want this press anymore and sell it pretty cheap. And I've actually bought reloading tools and then given away to people that are just starting out, because I like to see people starting out in this process. Reloading is relaxing. It's fun. You can't be a fool with it. You have to pay attention to what your data is. You have to be very astute with quality control. You can't be lazy. You can't, like you said, you can't be a fool. But if you're none of those things and you can read and follow instructions, you can have a very successful reloading career and make some really good ammunition with really basic tools. And this is all portable. All right, I hope this helps you out. Take care.